Hi guys, and welcome back to We Don't Need Roads. My name's Chris, and now normally at this time sat on this side of me would be Bryan, but unfortunately Bryan this week isn't feeling too great, so we have a new co-host, and she's also my guest today on the show. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome HerNameIsMelula.
Can I clap myself?
You can clap yourself.
Is that a bit egotistical?
No, honestly, that's fine. We have a live audience. Not that you can see them, but they will be clapping at the same time. Mel, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you come on the show. You know, out of everyone I messaged to see if they wanted to come on, I sort of had an inkling that you might, but I know,
I'm well up for things like this.
I know how busy you are, and I know you've absolutely smashed the streaming world. And you know, I was like, oh, I'd really love it if Mel could come on, and Tanya was like, I'm sure she will. She's such a lovely person. And I was like, I really hope she does. And when you said, yeah, go on, yeah, I'll do it, I was like, yes.
Yeah, just tell me what, like, it's like basically just give me some dates and I'll make something work. But I mean, and the main thing is, like, as busy as I get, the one thing I never want to either turn down or change or move is streams. And I get told off for that all the time. My community tell me me off. Like, if you're tired, why are you streaming? Like, you didn't need to be here tonight. And it's like, no, I want to do things because this is my baby. This is what I do to be happy as a hobby. So yeah, but thank you for asking me.
No, you are more than welcome. And to be perfectly honest, I completely agree. You know, I messaged you a couple of months ago, about a month ago, and I said, look, Mel, we're taking a step back from streaming on Twitch, but I just want to let you know that whenever physically possible, I'll be in your stream. It just all sort of become too much for us. And we tried streaming on YouTube, and we were like, it's okay.
It's all right. I tried it. I tried it last at the big. Well, we still don't know, we're in October now, aren't we? I tried it last month for a day off Twitch, and to be honest, it was all right, but it just didn't quite feel the same.
No.
And my community were very lovely, and they all hopped over for the day. But I think they missed like my integrations and things, which are obviously all very Twitch centric.
Yeah.
But we still had fun. But yeah, it's all about keeping your headspace where you want your headspace to be. And Twitch is my outlet. So even when things are going absolutely mad, the last thing I want to do is say no to streaming, because this is what cheers me up. This is what keeps me happy and engaged. And I feel like I have like it's mine. It's my thing.
Yeah, and that's the way I do feel about streaming, and like I miss it terribly. I really do. Like I have messages coming from all members of our community, and they're like, "Oh, it's great watching your videos, but you know we miss the interaction, and we miss being able to give you bits and this, that, and the other." And I'm just like, I want to come back. Honest to God, I want to come back, but at the moment, it's just not the right time for us, and I still need that creative outlet. So does Tanya. Which actually, if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because there is a cooking video coming, ladies and gentlemen.
Cooking.
Tanya did 3 variations on millionaire shortbread.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
With a Christmas twist. with mince pie filling.
Now, I've been getting told off on a stream because I've started eating mince pies already. I have people coming and going, it's October. And I'm like, They're in the shops already, so I'm going to eat them.
I am a sucker for mince pies. Like,
I love a mince pie.
obviously, we have 4 categories that we always cover on the show, but obviously the categories change from week to week. Now, for those who don't know, Mel does a lunchtime stream on her Twitch channel, which all the links will be down below. And you cover a very, very wide variety of TV shows, don't you, Mel?
Massively wide. Yeah, so I started Virtual Lunch Club when basically we went into first lockdown in March 2020. Company that I worked for and do still currently work for, actually sent us home a month before the government. A month? God, that would have been lovely. A week before the government before the government lockdown. So I was at home like a whole week beforehand, and I especially when it comes to like professional work, like my actual day job, I can be a little bit of a workaholic and I don't look after myself. So the main thing I thought is just like, oh, this is going to be hell. I'm just going to be answering emails and WhatsApps and phone calls at all hours of the day. I'm not going to take any breaks. I'm not going to eat. This is just going to be just like being on like some fast turnaround production. This is not going to be healthy for me. So I decided to do an hour lunch break stream every day with my community so that I would turn off my emails, close bloody Microsoft Teams, and just be left alone for an hour, relax, physically eat something with company, albeit like virtually. And then that would be also like my little kind of like break in the day. So that I was definitely kind of looking after myself, having a little bit of headspace, and then also kind of sharing things with my community that maybe they hadn't seen, or they'd suggest stuff that maybe I hadn't seen. And it started off just like with silly things. I think the first week or so we watched animal videos. We watched like, I don't know,
No,
cats do the craziest things.
I
That
do
sort of thing.
remember. Yes, I do remember. I remember coming in and I literally said in chat, I was like, "What?" And it was just
Yeah.
like in capital letters, "What? What's
Yeah.
going
It's like
on?"
this is what we're doing. And then it slowly became pretty much like a retro TV hour show that I did every day. And what we do is we have a theme every week. So themes kind of like a crowdsourced. We just I discuss them with the community. They throw some ideas out. We see how it would work. They suggest shows, and basically my hard cutoff is 2000. So anything pre 2000 to me is retro, mainly because in my head like 1995 is still like 2 years ago, but I refuse to think like 2000 is 21 years ago. Um, and we started watching anything and everything along whatever that week's theme would be. So we've done stuff like murder mystery. My favorite one is whenever we do a show or a run of shows, which are just like, I don't know, Doctor Who elsewhere. So we'll pick, I don't know, John Pertwee and Peter Davison and 3 other either companions or notable guest stars, but we'll find them in other programs. So there's a loose link towards the week. Like this week we're doing first episodes, so we're watching pilot or first episodes of long running, well, it's mostly been sitcoms really, but we've watched stuff as early as the 60s all the way up to the noughties, although I do tend to kind of navigate more towards the 60s 70s mark, just because that's what I was brought up on in my household. A lot of 60s and 70s comedy, same with music as well. So I'm always sort of like a little bit of been born outside of my time, because I've watched and I've seen and I know of stuff, specifically comedy, um, which usually someone who was born in the 80s like myself wouldn't know. And the lovely thing about Twitch is I found a lot of other people who are pretty much like in my age range who also have this knowledge. And it's like we've all kind of banded together and we've made the hive mind. And we have lunch together every day. Well, Monday to Friday. I have my weekends off.
TV shows of the past.
Yes.
Now, this is going to be a very difficult first question for you, Mel, and I know it is, and I'm not going to apologise in any way, shape, or form. Favourite TV show of the past, pre 2000?
Do you know what? My knee-jerk reaction would be to go Red Dwarf, but technically that's still running, although it did start pre-2000. In terms of my comfort and something from that era that I fell in love with, and is a reason why I have a freaking headshot of Dame Diana Rigg as Emma Peel behind me, it's gonna have to be the Avengers. And no, I don't mean the Marvel Avengers, for those of you who are too young or are not aware of the Avengers television series or the new Avengers television series,
Yeah.
that ran in the 60s and 70s. But I think it was the first thing I remember watching where there was a strong independent woman that was an equal to a man in that sort of spy-esque genre. Because you're always seeing, now don't get me wrong, like Bond girls can be sassy as hell. They can be awesome, they can be assassins, but ultimately it's always like, James, rescue me. Like they're a love interest. Whereas Kathy Gale, who was Honor Blackman before Dinah Rigg being Mrs. Peel, were both very kind of take no prisoners. I will karate chop you if I am not happy, and had a very kind of like playful but respectful relationship with Patrick Macnee's John Steed. And also it's just the aesthetic. Like it's like everyone suddenly in the late 60s, early 70s went, we've got Technicolor now, all the colors. So everyone's wearing the most amazing things. The shows, the show's what episodic premise is always something between sci-fi and just freaking sublime. Um, and it was just like a little mini adventure. And yeah, no, I adore it. Although very a tiny runner up after that would be something I've only sort of like knew was a thing in the last maybe 2 years, which is Who Done It, which was a celebrity panel murder mystery show that was originally presented by Edward Woodward, but then switched over to John Pertwee. And it's my it's like live Cluedo, and I love that. But no, my answer would be the Avengers. I didn't think that would be so easy, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Dame Diana behind me
Final
and John
answer?
Steed. Yes.
We're going to make this episode a little bit like Room 101, but it's not going to be Room 101. We're going to put things on a pedestal. So you're going to be putting the Avengers up on a pedestal. This will be no big surprise to anyone who knows me, Doctor Who. Now I know that the Doctor Who is still running, but very much like you, I class it in two categories. So we have classic Who,
And then New Who.
and then we have
I
New
do
Who
it as well. Yeah.
Right.
They are the same, but at the same time, different.
Very different. Yes. So for me, classic Who was really the first TV show as an understanding child I got to watch. Obviously, I watched He-Man, I watched Turtles, I watched Transformers. Again, for people who are watching this who don't understand, yes, these were cartoons in the 80s.
Yeah. Robots in disguise.
Yeah, but yeah, Doctor Who has always stuck with me, and very much like when the Avengers started and we had Technicolor, it was the exact same for me. Like watching, my parents were very, very, you must watch this, you will love it. And I was watching like William Hartnell and Patrick Troutman episodes that my dad had on VHS that he'd recorded off the telly, because I think like BBC had done like a Doctor Who rerun marathon thing at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, oh yeah, it's black and white, it's okay. This will make perfect sense in a moment. I had my first TV was a black and white box. That's the only way I could describe it. It was a box that had this 8-inch screen that had a dial to find the TV channels. I actually ended up putting a mark on the frequency for each BBC
Oh, so you
One,
knew where they
BBC Two,
were.
so I knew where they
Yeah,
were.
I had one that I had my one in my bedroom had the clunky buttons. So first clunky button was BBC One,
Yeah.
2, ITV, Channel 4, and obviously no remote.
No. Oh, you were the remote. That's the point. Back when we were kids, Mel, like, did you ever have this? Tap on the head. Change the channel for me, please. BBC One, please.
Do you know, if it did, I've wiped it from my memory.
I'd literally, my mum and dad would be sat behind me on the sofa. I'd be sat there watching telly, and it would get to 7 o'clock, for example. EastEnders was coming on. My mum would tap me on the head. BBC One, please, Chris. Get up. BBC One. Sit back down. Half hour later, ITV.
Yeah, how about you get change the channel?
Yeah. But yeah, I was the remote control for the first 10 years of my life. I was programmed from a very young age. It was like, if I say this number, you press this button. So I very much enjoyed Doctor Who because it was in black and white, and the TV in my bedroom was black and white. So I was used to watching stuff in black and white. Colour TV was only downstairs, so it didn't bother me. And that's what a lot of people say to me. They're like, "Don't you find that the black and white ones were boring?" I'm like, "No, they're probably the best ones out of the whole series."
No, there's definitely a different style of pacing and writing.
Yeah.
In stuff in the 60s. I think it's quite notable in the Avengers between obviously Honor Blackman and Diana Rigg episodes. They are a little bit more sedate in terms of how the plot moves on, but obviously in a world where we watch 60-second TikToks these days, attention spans over the years have got shorter and shorter and shorter. But to the point where obviously at this point, unless something was repeated, which didn't really happen in the 60s and 70s that often, they were also able to reuse scripts a lot. So there's a couple of Honor Blackman stories that you can see have basically been rewritten, and then they do it again in colour with Diana Rigg and Patrick McNee, which are almost carbon copies. But no, I've got a question for you.
Go on.
So
I like it when guests give me questions.
Yeah, my favourite Doctor Who episode from Classic Who
Mm-hmm.
is An Unearthly Child. So my favourite Classic Who Doctor Who is William Hartnell.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I love Pertwee.
Oh God.
I love Pertwee.
Yeah.
He's a very close second. But that kind of grumpy, know-it-all kind of was just it was a really good portrayal. And for me, yeah, classic Who, because you have people be like, no, Tom Baker, and I was like, no, don't get me wrong, Tom Baker's brilliant as well. I'm not saying any of the other ones are terrible, because they're not. No. But for me, that was a great pinnacle. It was a great opening episode, a good little bit of lead up. You kind of know what you're in for. And also the older ones are very kind of historical based. It's almost and it was marketed for children. You're sat down and watching, I don't know, let's find out what Genghis Khan was like, because we're going to go back and see him today in Doctor Who. But if we're talking new Who, I'm a David Tennant girl through and through. But weirdly, my favourite David Tennant episode is probably Blink, which he's barely freaking in. So my question for you would be your favourite classic Doctor Who an episode, and your favourite current new Who Doctor Who an episode. So I find this interesting.
So I'd have to say my favourite episode, I can't pick between, for classic Who, I can't pick one. It's actually two. But it's the same Doctor.
Ah, okay.
So it's actually John Pertwee. And it's
Sea Devils?
It's John Pertwee's first episode and his last episode. Purely because if you watch very, very carefully, there's so many similarities from when he becomes the Doctor to when he leaves being the Doctor. But in the same time, you can see how the Doctor has aged in that time period, of how he was very... The Doctor's been very well known for being a bit crazy after regeneration.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
Frenetic, I
Yeah.
think is a good word.
Yeah.
Frenetic. Yeah.
But then if you watch how he's very loose cannon-ish. In the first episode, he wants his shoes constantly, and you know it takes him a very long time to realize actually I'm the Doctor, I don't need to act like this. And then you watch how he's matured, and you know it absolutely. Obviously, I wasn't alive when it originally aired, but when I saw Jon Pertwee's final episode, it absolutely broke my heart. Yeah. I physically loved Jon Pertwee as the Doctor. I know it's been brought up on your show in the past when I've been in chat that Jon Pertwee was actually a spy for the British government, or he worked within the military, and that's why he. I'm going to have to Google it because.
I'm trying to think.
He served in the Royal Navy and Navy Intelligence Division during the Second World War. That's because that was the whole thing. Of I really loved is the fact that he brought so much of the naval intelligence spy aspect into the Doctor. You know, he was the first Doctor to really have gadgets. He was the first Doctor to really okay. The second Doctor had a sonic screwdriver, but that might as well have been it. It was just literally a stick that he
because Pertwee's obviously like landlocked. He almost becomes James Bond and Q rolled into one.
Precisely.
And also, like, I'm a big fan of Unit. I love Unit and the interactions within Pertwee is as well, and it just kind of builds upon that. I think that's probably why I took to Torchwood so much when it started, because I was just like, wicked. Torchwood. Like, this is basically like a slightly more renegade version of Unit. You know, like, screw the United Nations. We're doing what we want. And it was in Wales, and everybody loves the freaking Welsh. I love the Welsh.
So we're going to go straight into category 2, which is being a streamer and why. What is it like being a streamer, and why did you start streaming?
What's it like being a streamer? I'll answer that second, because I have to think about that. Because I think a lot of people, especially when you start streaming and you do start getting a community, there's a massive thing called imposter syndrome, where you're just like, I'm just an idiot in my bedroom. Why are you guys here? But anyway, I started streaming. I didn't know Twitch existed until I met my other half, Inel. And he actually was the one that was really pushing for me to give Twitch a try. He's like, I think you'd really enjoy it. Like, I know how much you like playing your games, especially the ones that obviously need decision making, because I was doing a lot of Telltale and stuff at the time. So I started streaming directly from my PlayStation to Twitch with my PlayStation camera and a headset which had a terrible mic on it. I sound like I'm literally tinny as hell. And it became something that I would do to unwind when I came home from work, basically. Be like, okay, I've done for work today. We'll do, I don't know, another chapter of Telltale's The Walking Dead. That's a 2-hour stream. I'll have a natter with some people. And what I found when I first started on Twitch was there's a very strong, like, core PlayStation community. In terms of, I think a lot of people would either search out or see people playing or streaming directly from a PlayStation, because it's pretty obvious because you don't have any fancy overlays or anything, and the PlayStation HUD still is to this day pretty basic when you stream. And I made some good friends there, and we started chatting. And I think the more I kind of got into my stride with streaming, and the less I kind of stopped thinking about being so scared all the time, it's something I started to pour a little bit more time into. My partner Arnell already had a channel, but he was very sporadic, and I mean very sporadic in terms of streaming. So once we both sort of decided that we were going to give it a bit of a crack, we kind of like, okay, well, we'll stream every day, every Tuesday, once a week together. And we both started using Twitch a lot more, which is nice. And I think the main thing that Twitch did for me at the time is it coincided with me getting a PS4, which was my first proper console I'd had for a very long time. I'd had lots of handhelds, um, but it helped reignite my passion for gaming. And also, in my day job, because I'd spent quite a lot of time enabling other creative people to make sure that their visions get made. It meant that I got to do something creative and fun in the evening and have my own little creative outlet. And then, I mean, how long have I been on Twitch now? Like 4 years, it must be coming up to, and I'm still here and I still love it. But what's it like being a streamer? Um, It totally differs from person to person. For me, it's like rocking up and talking to my hive mind, which is why I call us the hive mind. Because I think we're all on the safe wavelength. All got pretty much the same interests, if not all the same interests.
Yeah.
And we're always very much kind of on the same page, but not to the point where it's cliquey, which is what I like, which goes back to what you were saying before when we spoke, that it's still an inclusive community, even if, because I think my general age of, I think the youngest person I have in my community is like 17, and I think my oldest is in their late 50s. So there's
So
a real sort of
it's a
like,
nice age
it's
range
it's
to
a it's a
have.
nice age range. Like, everyone is what I would term a mature adult. Like, no one's an idiot, and we're all grown-ups, and hopefully we conduct ourselves that way. Like, occasionally you'll get a little bit of a niggle or something, or someone comes in and they're not quite the right fit, in which case, either myself or my mods will be just like, look, tone's just not quite right. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware, but this could be seen this way. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh my God, I didn't even think of it like that. I'm so sorry. I'll take it down. Or I didn't mean it like that. And everything's fine. And they stay and we all gel together. Occasionally you get someone who throws their toys out the pram and they leave. Um, but I mean, the end of the day, if that's how quickly someone says, like, you're in my house, if you're in my stream, you're in my house.
Yeah,
So you're
definitely.
you're a guest. You're not entitled to be here. So you either behave or you get out. That's kind of just how the world works. Um, so yeah, I would say streaming for me is primarily a creative outlet. It's definitely become, in the last 18 months, my main social media. Like, forget Twitter and Instagram and the rest of it. Like, this has been, on Twitch, my main way of communicating and checking in with people, or checking in with friends. It definitely made me make more adult friends. Not meaning that my friends before were all children. I mean, like, I feel like it gets older to make friends, as makes older. It gets harder to make friends as you get older. Obviously, you get like work colleagues. You're not doing like school things. You're not playing school sports. You're not in different classes with people. So there's less sort of like natural socializing. So yeah, Twitch for me has become a lovely way of life and an escape for me. I think that's the main thing.
I think you touched on the subject there, and I think it's sort of goes back to what you were saying earlier about you know, your community, and having that selfish moment of making your not making but having your community look out after you. The fact that making sure you ate properly, and I know from my experience, a lot of my community that were watching us while we are on Twitch, and a lot of them that have come over to YouTube for us, we class them more as friends now than we do just people who watch us. I can talk to someone who's a regular in my community. I'm not talking about people who just come in sporadically once every 6 months or whatever. I'm talking people who regularly are there in chat. And I can say, oh, by the way, how's such and such in your family? Or, did you enjoy the movie you went to go and see the other day? And it is like having a core group of friends that you never really see. They're there, but you never physically see them.
It's naturally really transient, because, like, obviously, like, you'll always have people going in going, I'm really sorry, I've not been here for a while. And it's just like, look, it's absolutely like, it's not like you've not been here for a month, you're no longer welcome. Like, we've all got lives, we all dip in and out. And I'm just thinking the other thing I think which has been really lovely, which I think has come hopefully from just being a decent human being on the internet in terms of being a streamer is my chat also tend to self-moderate. So if someone says something in chat or someone's just like, "Oh, that's a bit over the line," they'll almost have that conversation without my mods having to get involved.
Yeah.
And it's just like I've raised without raising um an intelligent hive mind, which is terrifying. Because that means all that they're more likely to have their crap together than I do on a stream. So it's constantly like, Mel, have you thought of this? No, no, haven't thought of that. But thank you. Thank you for always looking out for me.
It always makes me chuckle when you talk about the community and you call them a hive mind, because I'm just like,
Yeah.
so does that make Mel the Borg Queen?
Yeah, I think I am. I think I am. The thing is that I mean, it's happened more and more over the last probably 6 months. We'll be talking about something, and you've been in my stream. We love a pun, so there's lots of little punny one-liners being chucked around, and we'll be
And
talking about something. And
you are very famous as well for your special sound
puns,
effects.
puns. Um, and it will literally happen where I will have two people type in chat almost instantaneously the same joke, or they'll make the same pun on something I've just mispronounced. And it's just like jinx. And it's just like, well, this is what's happened now. I've somehow collected all you people that think the same way as I do. So every now and again, it's like the Matrix. Instead of seeing like a black cat and it being deja vu, one of the hive minds says exactly what the other hive mind says.
And that's the thing, like you alluded to it earlier, and it's such a great community because everyone is in that same mindset. You know,
Mm.
we all enjoy classic TV. We all enjoy that little bit of freedom to say what we want, but obviously we know not to take it too far. Um, and the fact that, like, I love the fact that you make your streams so interactive. You have your horse's head, you have your Disney head, you have your snap
I have my
screenshot thing.
filters. Oh,
You
wrong
have your
one. Hold on.
yeah.
Hold on. Where's my horse? I've got all these hotkeys and I've got no idea where any of these are. Hold on. Baby. No. Meta beans. Hey, there's my horse. Hey, got there in the end.
So there we go. So like, if guys, if you're watching this video on YouTube and you enjoy this sort of comedy shenanigans,
Hey.
make sure you check out our link below. So moving swiftly on to category 3, which is travel and holiday stories. Mel, now you seem the type of person that has travelled some.
Well, this is the thing. Like, we, as a child, I think the only real abroad holiday we went on is we did a fly drive with Virgin Holidays.
Ooh.
We went to America twice. But both times when I was about, I think we were about 13. And I went again when I was about 15. But otherwise, we always used to holiday on the Channel Islands. We used to go to Guernsey mostly. I think we spent 1 year on Jersey, but it was nearly always Guernsey and the Channel
Yeah.
Islands. I didn't really start going elsewhere. Oh yeah, occasionally to France. Until I for work basically. And that took me around lots of Spain, and I went to Teen, which is up in the French Alps.
Yeah.
Lots of snow, like so much snow, the most snow I've ever seen in my life. Vegas, which I would recommend for I don't know, a week stay. Do not spend 3 weeks there on a filming schedule. It's horrific. It's like deja vu. You never see daylight because if your production office is in a casino where they deliberately don't have any windows, you don't know what time of day it is. But I've definitely been going to more kind of non-Euro English centric speaking countries in the past 4 to 5 years since I met Ainel. My favorite being Morocco.
Ooh.
Um,
Now
we
that's
went
one
to
place I've not
Marrakesh.
been.
Yeah, Marrakesh is lovely. I thoroughly recommend Marrakesh. Their tea is great. The food is really good. And also I got to ride camels in the desert and it was amazing. It was very kind of Lawrence of Arabia with us all having like our camels all joined together with a bit of rope and I was at the front and me and Barry, which is what I decided to call my camel, totally bonded. We were getting on really well. Einel was on the camel behind me. He wasn't getting on as well with his camel. It wasn't having any of it to the point where I would literally have to stop on Barry and turn around and coax his one forward because he just wasn't having any luck with it. But yeah, we've done Morocco, Portugal, Istanbul. Which when I kind of ream all these places off, it just sounds like the foreign locations for different Bond films over the years, which I think maybe I've been doing like unconsciously and not noticed. But I know the next place that we would both really love to go that I'm really interested in visiting is Japan. For gaming,
Of
obviously,
course.
for the culture more than anything, because I think the main thing I think really hit me when we went to Marrakesh is just that I was in a completely different culture to what I was used to. Like it wasn't Europe, um, and it was eye-opening, and it actually felt like an adventure as well as it being a holiday and relaxing. It's like everything was a little bit new.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's kind of now what my wanderlust wants. It wants to go somewhere. Like I'll probably still want to go to, I don't know, Tenerife at some point for a week in the sun. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I think it's more of a case of I want to very Star Trekky, like explore new places, new lives, and new civilizations to boldly go where Mel's not gone before. But yeah, next on the list would be Japan. Definitely, I think. Um, because Universal Studios have got the Nintendo world there now. She says
You've
sat
got
here
no
in her Igglypuff top.
I very
Looks so good.
slyly said to Tanya, I was like, "Do you think we could get someone to
Yeah.
look after the kids for 2 weeks?" And she was like, "Why?" I went, "Because there's Mario World in Japan." And she was like, "No." I was like, "Damn."
Did you know Universal Studios Japan is the only Universal Studios that still has the original Back to the Future ride?
Do you know what? I I sat here.
And I love the Back to the Future ride at Universal. It's turned into the Simpsons Hit and Run or something, and then it got
Yeah.
turned into something else. But I can remember being at Universal. I can't remember if it was Florida or if it was California because we went between 2 years to both coasts.
Mm-hmm.
But they had the train
Yeah.
from Back to the Future 3 outside. Is it 3?
Yes.
2, 3, yes.
3.
And we must have gone on that ride 3 or 4 times. I was obsessed. And not just because I love Back to the Future, obviously. Banging movie trilogy. Will hear no different.
Yeah.
It was also because, and this is like a little kind of mini thing I'm obsessed with, is how theme park fairground rides work, sort of thing. So I'm not talking like your, I don't know, carousel. Like we were all in simulated DeLoreans in this big building watching the same screen. And like I've got a very vivid recollection of like sitting up in the DeLorean we were in and looking down and seeing all these little rooms on a slope with all the other DeLoreans with everybody else who'd been queuing, obviously, all seeing the exact same thing. So yes, I lose many hours on YouTube to the whole kind of like Disney's Haunted Mansion with the lights on. You know, when people are just like, we got evacuated from our
Yes.
doom buggies and we had to walk through and see how they do all the ghosts. Like
Yes.
that, pour it in my veins. I find that so interesting.
Literally,
But
Tanya hates it because
yeah.
I'm literally crying because you are literally describing me. So
No, I want to know how stuff's done.
I
Don't get me wrong, like if you take me to a magician,
Mhm.
I will totally like revel in the illusion. That's amazing. But the back of my head is going, okay, well, how have they done that? And I think part of it is been embedded into me in terms of my TV production head, because I'm always either risk assessing or seeing how things are done or just generally thinking of it as in like, if I were to block this out myself, how would this work? And for things like the Disney theme parks or even Universal, like with the Imagineers, having that as a main job is just amazing. I'll be just like, right, so your main job for the last 3 years is to build an animatronic that basically has, I don't know, like 300 points of articulation. That's sick. And it's just going to do this in the background of an Avatar ride. Brilliant.
See, have you watched the Disney Plus series on?
No, I haven't yet. That's something I need to binge.
Honestly, you can binge it in a day.
Oh,
you can.
I will do that
because I did
do
it.
that. Yeah,
I literally did it, and they go from day dot with Walt right up to, I think it's 2010 ish, that sort of time period. Definitely worth a watch, without a shadow of a doubt.
So yeah, so in short, Japan, because I've now got 2 reasons to go to Universal Studios Japan. One of them being Super Mario World, the other one being the fact that I'll be able to ride the Back to the Future ride again, literally like 20 years after I first rode it. And I just want to soak up the culture and do some crazy shopping because it's all going to be so cool.
Wraps us up to category number 4, Mel, and now this is our favourite category, and the reason it's our favourite category is because it is absolute bollocks.
Okay.
You can talk about anything, random facts, news, anything that sort of grabs your fancy or stuff that you've heard this week. So, have you any random facts or news?
Do you know what I will say? Because it was a little bit of a running joke this week, because we watched, as I mentioned before, we watched a lot of retro things. Like this week we've watched On the Buses, and there's certain retro shows that will always bring out certain trivia from either existing community members or passing community members, and they'll come in and be like blah 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 blah. Say we're watching an episode of Going for Gold, you know, the competition show that used to be on in the 90s. They'd be like, did you know Hans Zimmer did the theme tune for this? You know, Hans Zimmer, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean, like every big blockbuster soundtrack you've ever heard of. And it's just like, yeah. So I said to my guys on Tuesday this week, and I was like, we're going to watch an episode On the Buses. But before we start, I want us to play a little game. And that game is, let's see how long it takes for someone to come into chat and go, did you know Reg Varney, who is one of the main actors in On the Buses, was the first person in the UK to use an ATM? And and like, he was, you know how people open up shopping centres and supermarkets and stuff. Reg Varney from On the Buses was the first person to use an ATM at Enfield Town Barclays, right? And I said this is a ground rule, and I said, look, it's a joke. I said, it's a great bit of trivia. It's a fabulous bit of trivia. And it's one that people would go, nah, never. I need to see pictures. And I like, Google it. There's newspaper articles. It happened. And it probably took about 35 minutes. And one of my regulars came in and went, I've got a great bit of trivia about On the Buses. And I went, right, brace yourself. I said, if you're going to tell me what I think you're going to tell me, and don't be scared about this. We did speak about this at the beginning of the stream, which I don't think you were here. But if I laugh, I'm laughing at you with love and because I was expecting this. And he went, did you know Reg Varney was the first person to use an ATM in Enfield Town in Barclays? And I was just like, yes. I was like, I don't know if I was starting my own bingo card of random trivia people say to me when I'm streaming. But yeah, that's a random thing I can tell you. Reg Varney was the first person to use an ATM in the UK, and it was Enfield Town Barclays, which is still there, by the way. It's still there, that Barclays.
Which is actually a pretty amazing thing in itself, considering how many banks have changed hands and
shifted and moved. Yeah. Still in the same place. In the same place.
Wow.
Other random trivia fact. I am in a Japanese Jaguar advert somewhere as a ballerina when I was 10. I was part of a ballerina kind of ensemble for a Japanese Jaguar advert that was shot over here in Berkshire. I got cast from my dance school at the time. We didn't really do much dancing. It was more just prancing around in leotards. I think they just wanted a lot of very English Rose style looking children. There was some sort of storyline where Bethany, which is another girl from my dancing school at the time, came out of her house and kind of pirouetted into a Jaguar and then went to her dance studio. And then there's all of us doing all the rest of it. And I've never seen it. It exists somewhere.
Well, I am literally looking for
and I've
it.
been on the history of advertising, the whole lot. And then obviously I've through work, I've actually asked a couple of my archive producers to see if they could dig something out in a spare 5 minutes. But I wonder whether they ever actually made it, because that does happen quite often. Adverts are shot and they're never used. But yeah, somewhere there is 10-year-old ballerina Mel in a Japanese Jaguar advert, and I'll be damned if I can find it at all.
So
but,
it would have been 90s?
Yeah.
Guinness.
Also, I can remember I had a little brown manila envelope. And I think we got paid like 40 quid, which is ridiculous.
Wow.
Also, I was a second casting. I wasn't one of the original group that got picked. But then one of the girls pulled out or was ill. So we did a second casting. And we went with our parents, obviously.
Yeah.
And there was me because they came in and took Polaroids of us all. And it was me and another girl who I want to say was called Claire. It's a very long time ago.
Yeah.
Who had a very pushy mother. You know, they're kind of like, you must do this, you must do that. Like, I danced for fun. My mum just wanted me to have a hobby. So, like, I used to do ballet, modern and tap when I was little. You know, keep the kids exercising and doing things. And I can remember being sat, all of us sat there, and there was who I assumed to be the director or the casting guy talking away in Japanese to a translator. And he was sat there the entire time, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And he kept pointing at me. And came away from it afterwards, and they were just like, oh, we'd like you to do it. And I can just remember us doing that meeting, and I'm going to call her Claire. I think her name was Claire. Her going back over to her mum to tell her that she hadn't got it, and she was in floods of tears. And she also went to my primary school, and I can remember us doing our SATs. And again, I can remember her physically having a breakdown during the exam because she was so petrified. Like,
I cannot find it for love nor money.
No, trust me, if you do, I mean, gold star, because I've not been able to, I've been looking for it for years. Absolutely years. Although you never know these days, it's probably going to turn up on YouTube in someone's VHS rip.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, somewhere there is a Japanese Jaguar commercial with me in it.
Wow.
And yeah, Reg Varney used the first ATM in the UK in Enfield Town.
See, and this is one of the reasons why I love coming into your stream, because one of your stream points is random television facts, and I love hitting that one. I'm like, give me another one.
Also, like, I learned things. Oh God, what did I learn on stream today? Someone told me something really interesting. God, I can't remember. This is what happens. My brain's got such short-term memory, sort of like repository. Once I don't need it anymore, it just lets it go. This is what happens when you work in reality too much and things change constantly. You just don't have any memory retention. And my brain's like completely ruined from it. But I'm getting better.
I do have to ask, Mel, what is it you actually do? I know you work in television. I know you're like mother hen to whatever it is you do. But what is it you actually do?
Over the years, I have been a production coordinator and an assistant producer. So I've been on the production point in terms of logistics and just basically being big mother hen and making sure everything's health and safety and people are fed and put in rooms and we've got the right kit and looked after talent. And then I've also done the producing side, which is sourcing contributors, locations, making I don't know, like almost like story points, events for things to do, which is probably like my more producery side has obviously come out onto Twitch.
Yeah.
Whereas like the more logistic technical side, which is from my production background, has also kind of come out onto Twitch, because that's more about like how I present things, or it kind of meshes in, because I think I've said many times when I've been speaking about like how streaming isn't really that easy, and I'm not talking about being discovered, I'm talking about like if you want to do the bells and whistles, because if this, like what we're doing right now, was a funded production, that it wouldn't just be me and you. There would be at least, what, 15 people here, I would have said. At least.
Yeah.
I'm not mean at the recording, I mean over everything in general. Being from like your production manager, maybe a researcher, a runner, an AP. You've then got your sound recordist for the studio. And then maybe if we were in a studio, then you've also got your studio runner or your sound assistant. And a lot of content creators who run intensely high spec production value streams are doing what literally a technical team of something, sometimes up to 15 to 20 to 30 people would do on a broadcast production. Which is why I was saying multitasking is so important.
Very, very much so. Yeah, because for all these years that I've known you, I've never. I knew you worked in telly, and I knew you had like the whole, as you put it, mother hen side of things, but I never actually knew what you actually did.
Yeah, no, I've drifted. I've gone from reality to factual to reality again, and then in factual. And at the moment, I've taken a staff job where I'm still within a production company, but I'm not physically on productions at the moment, which suits me fine, because that means I'm not getting panicked phone calls from, I don't know, a PD in Leeds going, "Oh, I left the lens we need for that shoot tomorrow in London." But like, brilliant. How do you expect me to fix that? Which trust me, has happened before. Or I've had talent miss their flights. I've actually been the Hail Mary when other productions, when I've left production companies, basically gone, so we're all in Australia, and redacted talent person here was supposed to come on the second plane, but she didn't get to the airport in time. Do you mind organising and booking a second flight for them, and then also meeting them at Terminal 5 to make sure they go through security so we know they're definitely on the flight? Yes, I will do that.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, sounds like a laugh.
So yeah, so another reason why Twitch ticks a lot of boxes for me. This is my producer brain. Like, what can I do content wise, and also why I enjoy doing stuff like Melly Addicts and putting kind of like content strands together.
Yeah,
because it kind of stretches all my brains in all different directions. But yeah, jack of all trades, master of none, brain of a sieve, all of these things.
You're a master of few, at least, Mel. You've got to be.
A couple. My unconscious brain tends to know what's going on more than my actual brain, especially when it comes to like remembering things. Like, it's almost just like, I want to say this. Is that right?
Is that the right word to use?
Is that the right? That's the right answer. No,
so just a couple of random facts from this side of the studio. Did you know originally high heels were made for men?
Ooh, no, I did not.
Yeah. So in the 10th century, men in Europe adapted shoes to have heels, and originally were designed for men.
See, we're so progressive, us Europeans.
Yeah. New York was briefly named New Orange.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So basically, when the Dutch went over to New York, well, when they went over to America and they started.
Yeah, I knew it was a Dutch settlement.
Yeah. It was to honour William III of Orange.
Ooh.
So yeah, there you go. That's another little tidbit.
New Orange. Yeah,
it just doesn't,
could work.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't really.
No. Oh, this is a fun one. I've got a list of stuff that I've been finding out. Green eggs and ham started as a bet.
Yeah, to be honest, it doesn't sound like anything I ever want to eat.
So basically, he was the Dr. Seuss was betted $50 to write a book that made absolutely no sense at all and was absolutely disgusting. And it went on to being one of his biggest bestsellers. So
See?
yeah. See,
Happy little accidents.
it always happens. Always happens when you least expect it. But I think we're going to leave the random facts and news there. Thank you very much, Mel. You have been an absolute star. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our guest and co-host this evening. She is Mel.
I got a boost in the rankings. Co-host and guest and co-host.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes. Thank you very much for joining us today. It has been an absolute pleasure. Again, we want to wish Bryan a speedy recovery, and hopefully he will be all tickety-boo ready for the next part of the show. But until then, guys, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check out all the links for myself and for Bryan and for Mel down in the comments below, down there. And we will see you all next time on We Don't Need Roads.